It's been about 5 years since I've put out a knife making video. And in that time, I've collected a bunch of new tools, and this year I finally built a dedicated knife making shop. Over the years, I've designed a good handful of knives that I've been really excited to make, but I didn't quite have the tooling necessary to actually make them. And so now with some of these more advanced tools like my hydraulic press and a laser engraver and a really well-functioning belt grinder, I feel like it's time to finally tackle some of these more advanced projects. And I want to kick this adventure off with today's project, a set of matching chef's knives. So let's get into it. So I'm gonna start off breaking with what I normally do, and rather than use bar stock and forging it to shape, I'm going to use this 1/8 inch thick sheet of steel, which you can see has been outside and got a little rusty. So I'm going to start off by marking out a rough profile of what I want the knife to look like. I almost never use my angle grinder. I don't like how loud and messy it is, but since I can't cut from this big sheet of steel any other way, I'm gonna have to use it today. And once I got that rough profile cut out, it's over to the belt grinder, and I'm gonna refine the profile. I've got a really worn out old belt on this thing, so it's not as efficient as it could be, but you can still see it's very quick. Normally I would cut this little tip off, but I think I wanted to show off how quick the grinder eats away at the steel, even with the old belt. So it's over to the bandsaw to cut out the bulk of the material rather than try and grind all this away, which would take forever. Yeah, put that in the scrap pile and get back to refining the profile. Now it's back to the belt grinder to use one of my favorite features. I'm going to put in a small wheel to get those inside radiuses. And in order to make profiling easier, I'm going to flip it 90 degrees and work with a horizontal rest. And once that's all profiled the way I like it, I'm just going to give it a little hand sanding to knock off any burrs and make it holdable. Check it out, make sure it looks good. Can't cut through my hand yet, but it feels good in the hand, which means it's time to make a second knife, an exact copy. It's nice that I got to use a full profile for this one, but gotta use the anvil clamp, and then profiling the second knife goes exactly the same as the first one. So now I'm going to put on some layout fluid and get ready to drill the holes through the tang. Now with the pinholes drilled, I'm gonna put in a couple extra holes to allow some place for the epoxy to sit. And I'm gonna chamfer the holes, both the pinholes and the holes in the tang, just to make sure everything's nice and smooth and works the way it should. Now I'm going to transfer those pinholes. That way I can make sure that the handles match perfectly. And I'm going to use these little short pins to make sure that everything stays in place while I'm working on it. And now that the blades both match up perfectly, I can add my maker's mark. The induction forge is super handy for this. I have to make a different attachment in the future, but as you can see, I can just heat up the spot that I want to hit with my touch mark, which really helps prevent warping it out of shape when I hit it with the hammer. I basically had to do no straightening, whereas in the past when I used the propane forge, I would have to straighten quite a bit after doing this. And I'm gonna put my maker's mark on the other side for the second knife, so they're mirror images. Now, to get off the rust that these knives were covered in when I cut them out. I'm gonna heat them up to forging temperature and then hit them with the wire brush. And then it's over to this wire wheel to even further take off some of that original mill scale. And you'll see it left kind of a blade pattern, which I really like, and so I left it on there. So now it's time to get started on the handle. I've got this nice cherry burl wood that I harvested from my grandparents' property a couple years back and stabilized myself, and it has some really nice blue pockets in it, which unfortunately didn't come through, but it's really nice looking wood. And I'm going to be using some ebony spacers in the middle to make a complex handle. And after fitting the handle scales up to the tang, or tangs, I can go ahead and refine them a little bit on the belt grinder. And now with the handle profiled and mostly fitting in my hand nicely, I'm gonna refine the front edge and make it look nice. And from here I'm gonna pre-shape the handle on the belt grinder. And as you can see, I've added these nice risers to the blade. You've probably figured out by now that this isn't a set of real chef's knives. We'll get to that in just a moment, but yeah, I'm gonna pre-shape on the belt grinder. I ended up, because of the risers, I had to take the adjustable workbench off entirely and do it freehand. And this works out really nicely, and once I get the general shape of how the handle is going to be and scratch it a little more, then I'll go over to the vise and throw it in the vise, and I'm going to use files and various grits of sandpaper and take my time and make this fit into my hand really nicely. I always want to make a knife, even if it's not a real knife, I want to make the handle fit the hand. And the only way to do that is by holding it in your hand. So once that's all done, I got it sanded up to a nice high grit, and this is just a little buff with my hand. There's no finish or anything on it yet, and look how pretty that burl wood is. I want to start making some more knives with burl wood. And I put some outdoor safe finish on it and on the blade, and that's because this is a set of door handles for my barn doors on my shop. I think they are perfect for what my shop is. I think they really showed the essence of Johnson knives. Some nice high quality door handles there. And there's just one more thing that I need to tie the shop together. If you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you would support me by liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel. I plan on putting out videos of complex builds of high-quality chef's knives. Thanks for watching.